firstly made you go into the corporate world?
Most of us just get pushed into the corporate world.
You've made money, you've progressed, you've made a name for yourself. So why were you not happy?
Your heart wants something else, and your mind is telling you, well, there's no safety in what your heart wants.
What was those initial years like for you in USA?
It was really scary, actually.
Have you forgiven your parents?
Forgiveness is, again, a journey. If you do not focus on yourself,
What role have friends played in your life?
the free will that we think we have is an illusion.
What does detachment mean to you?
Detachment doesn't mean don't feel your emotions. I had so much fear when I had savings.
Shanti, welcome and thank you so much for being here today and wanting to share your story. Would you like to start by introducing yourself?
That's a tough question because, if you had asked me this like 2 years ago, I would have had a lot to say about that. But where I am in my life, I actually can't come up with anything except I'm an explorer of consciousness. I'm an explorer of the human life and what it means to be human. That's where I am right now. That's what I'm doing, investigating.
Let's start at the beginning, perhaps. I know that you graduated in computer science from the University of Michigan, going back a fair few years now. And then you've dabbled in the corporate world. You have co-founded a company with one of your friends as well. And maybe you can, kind of give us a background on that too. And then you've done a few things in between. I know you were a keen photographer. You've held exhibitions of your work. You've also dabbled in acting and you've done some work in the movie business. And then you pivoted. You took a 180-degree turn. So what firstly made you go into the corporate world? And then we'll get to the pivot that happened and why it happened.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. What got me into the corporate world? Well, most of us just get pushed into the corporate world. Well, other than for a few people, most of us are just enslaved in many ways because you want to make money, you want security, stability, and most people I know are very miserable in that role that they play. So the same, it was like everybody goes and works. And you go into a career that will pay you money, a lot of money, hopefully. So computer science, I had no particular interest in it, but it was the thing to do. Everybody was doing it. My parents really wanted me to focus on that. So that's all I knew. And I said, okay. But I've always been an artist at heart. So it was kind of traumatic to go down that road. And for years, I was so unhappy. I remember sitting at my desk when I used to work at all these banks and just feeling so like, what is the point of this life? Why am I here day after day? It just there's no meaning other than, I get to make money. So, and there's times when I remember I would be standing in front of the train station and I would just walk home and be like, I can't do this anymore. But I would come back again and do it because it's like a trap.
But you were very successful in the corporate world. In fact, everything that you have done in your life, in the traditional sense, you've been very successful. You've made money, you've progressed, you've made a name for yourself, and whatever you did really, really well. So why were you not happy?
Well, that's the thing. Your heart wants something else, and your mind is telling you, well, there's no safety in what your heart wants. So there's only so much you can do with money, Yes, you can have a beautiful house, all these cars, you can go to the most expensive restaurants. I lived in Manhattan. I call it the home of Maya. Illusion. If you want to really experience illusion, you go live in Manhattan. I lived there for 13 years. And I'm actually really grateful because I got to do all of that, right? But when I came from India and when I moved to this country, I wanted that. I wanted the glamour, I wanted to be known, to be seen, to be validated. I was seeking external validation. And I got all of that, the success, the money. And then you hit a point in your life where you're like, wow, this feels empty on the inside. It's like, it's not filling my soul. It's like all the trappings. And when I first came to Manhattan, I would walk on the streets and be like, I'm never leaving this place. How lucky am I to be here? I'm never leaving this place. And when I left, even when I left, the pull of that place was so strong. I was like, okay, I'm only leaving for a year and I'm going to come back. I even put my stuff in storage. And this year, in January, February, I went back to Manhattan and I was like, wow, I can't believe I lived for so many years here, because it's just like I could see now what I couldn't see then. And I am so happy right now. I have never been this happy in my life. And I was never this happy when I had everything that I thought I wanted.
When you say happy, do you mean content somewhere? You feel at peace as opposed to what you were feeling when you were living in this busy lifestyle, achieving great things, making a name for yourself, making lots of money?
So it's interesting because I had to learn what happiness is as well. And it's nothing external can give that happiness. And it's just like, as you said, it is a peaceful state, but it is not, because we're emotional beings. And you're going to have anger, you're going to feel jealousy, you're going to feel all of that. That is a human experience. So most of us are trained to run away from all the suffering, run away from the pain and the emotions, and happiness is just like, wow, I just feel good all the time and I'm laughing and there's no problems in my life. And I've had to come to terms with the fact that that is not happiness. Happiness is, can you be that really strong oak tree? Can you be so stable inside yourself that chaos could be playing all around you and you could feel all these emotions and yet maintain that stability, that core strength inside you? And that is peace. That is stability. That's happiness. Because I can tell you I'm happy right now, and I could have just been super angry and raging mad in the morning, but that's okay because I experienced that emotion. I allowed it to pass through my body. I alchemized it. That is how you get to happiness and peace and stability, because you're just embracing life and all that life throws at you, because it is going to throw all these things at you. Can you be okay with that? And that's the journey. In fact, if I had to sum it up, everything that I've experienced in my life to this day has led me to acceptance. Acceptance is the word. My external may not reflect that, but I am happy.
How old were you when you moved from India to the USA?
I was 19, I think. Yeah.
Okay, and that's quite a emotional state, because you are on the verge of finding yourself and you are on the verge of finding your space, and you're looking for all that validation and everything. So that might have been quite a crucial age for you to almost make your mark in the new place that you've moved into. What were those initial years like for you in USA?
It was really scary, actually. It was really scary to live life in that way where, I remember arriving and I actually didn't want to talk to anybody because I was like, oh, I don't understand what they're saying. I don't understand their accent. And there was a lot of inner work that I had to do, because for years, in India, we have this thing about the skin color. And I had this thing that I'm like, I just didn't love myself. I didn't love what I looked like. I didn't love the tone of my skin. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm in this country and everybody looks different and I don't fit in. I can't just blend in here and be like everybody, speak like them. The amount of self-worth issues that came up from that, it took years to work through that. And I went to Bali, I moved to Bali a couple of years ago. And that's where I finally came to peace with, this is how I look. This is the color of my skin. I am not fair-skinned, I'm brown, and I'm okay with that. It took years and it was very painful. So fear is what a lot of fear came up when I moved here. I felt unworthy.
So, when you moved there, were you always having some sort of, hyper self-awareness about yourself before you moved to the USA, and you carried that with you and then judged yourself with those eyes? Or was it because you suddenly found that you were so dramatically different looking to everybody around you that you kind of, even though you were in India, and I know you said the skin color is a thing there, but you suddenly became more conscious of it because everybody was so different to you.
Yeah. And, these big patterns and conditioning that we carry, they start in the childhood. There's instances where I have a sister and she is fair-skinned, and how she was treated by the family. And, it's like, oh, you're so pretty, you're so beautiful. And hearing that, being in those situations, that's traumatic for a child to grow up with, and that stays with you. And you're repeating that over and over in your life and reinforcing those beliefs that, oh, I'm not pretty because I don't have that skin tone, So this is a childhood
Trauma.
baggage. This is actually childhood baggage that plays out. And now it's like I get the chance to work through it and be like, do I want to carry on feeling that, or do I want to resolve it? So I've had to do a lot of work. Like, I worked with many healing modalities to heal those. So yeah, it's like it starts there, and then it gets amplified. A situation or a person can come into your life and amplify that wound. So you really have to face it then.
What role did your family play once you had moved there in providing you some stability and some place to grow and explore?
Well, that's a question that it has many layers, because there's a lot of gratitude. I have a lot of gratitude because my family has really provided for that home, that material stability. They have really wanted to provide that for us, and they did, and they have. So there's a lot of gratitude. And the other side of the coin is, you're Indian, and there's a lot of obligation that comes with being Indian or an Indian child, and a lot of like, this is how it's done, and this is what you need to do. You need to go be a doctor. And it's so strong, and the guilt and the shame that comes with that is so strong. So I've had to grapple with that I am not following the path that other people are. I am a black sheep. It's been a rough ride in terms of like, how do you reconcile that? You do have a lot of gratitude. You love your parents, but in some ways, they think they have your best interests in their hearts, but they really don't, because they have set rigid ideas of what is success, who you need to be. And if you do not follow that path, you have shamed us, you have betrayed this. We have done so much for you, and this is how you pay us back. Somebody may not say that, but that is the energy. This is how these energetics work. So there's a lot of hurt on both sides. There's the guilt you feel for having not fulfilled their dreams. But what I have learned, and this is the healing journey of like, as a human being, you are not here for fulfilling the dreams of other people and, assuaging their guilt and shame or whatever you're not here to continue these patterns. You are a chain breaker. And that is how you get to happiness, by breaking those chains. And it is tough. It is tough, and it takes a lot of courage. So yeah, there's that dynamic.
Did your family know about your interest in the artistic side that you, and I have seen some of your art and I think it's absolutely brilliant, but was your family aware of this? A, that you did a brilliant job, but B, this is possibly where you have your interest and happiness in?
Oh, thank you for saying that. And they knew as a child, I wanted to create, I wanted to draw. And, I had forgotten that this even happened, but my dad was sharing with me recently. This was like last year. He was talking about how I used to have an instructor come in to teach me how to draw when I was a child. And I was so consumed with creating and drawing that my parents got scared. They thought, oh, she's just going to focus on this and she's not going to focus on math or chemistry or whatever.
Maths and science, yeah.
Maths and science. They panicked and they stopped this person from, or they said, okay, we're done. We're not going to continue this anymore. So it's not that they didn't know. It's just they were consumed by their own fears that if this becomes important, our child is not going to grow up and be able to take care of herself. She's not going to make money. And these careers are going to go nowhere. You can't be an artist and support yourself. And I can see, it's like you go through a phase where you're like, oh, I hate you for doing this to me, where my own desires, my creativity was suppressed. So there's anger and resentment that you hold. And then you come to a point in your life where you're like, their parents didn't let them do what they wanted. And it's fear. They were acting out of fear. So you eventually come to a point where you're like, I can hold on to this grudge and this resentment, or I can see these patterns. I can see how humanity itself is conditioned in certain ways. And can I forgive?
Have you forgiven your parents?
Forgiveness is, again, a journey. You forgive, and then there's more to forgive because there's so many layers. And I do a lot of ancestral work as well, in the sense like working with the lineages, and it's many layered, but forgiveness is beautiful because if you can truly forgive, it impacts the core of your being. And most of us, it's not that easy to forgive. It's not that easy to forgive because it's years and lifetimes that you're carrying with these people. So I have to an extent, and it is an ongoing journey.
Coming back to the pivot you did in your career, how did you find the strength to leave the corporate world, and then what did you move into? Did you tell your family about it, and what did they say?
Well, I would switch jobs like nobody's business. Even when I was working, I had so many jobs. I wouldn't be able to stay in one place because I eventually wouldn't enjoy any of the work that I was doing. And, it didn't just happen. The courage that I had, because how are you going to live without money? The courage that I had was, okay, I'm going to stop for a year. I did that many times. I would leave for a year, do my own thing, and come back. So I didn't really get to that point where I could just leave and be like, you know what, I'm done. So it was a start and stop for many years. And my parents were not happy with it because, and even there was a lot of fear because it's like, what if you don't get a job again? And even sometimes friends would talk about it. So when was this? Actually, right before I moved to Bali is when I left forever and did not look back. And that when I moved to Bali, it changed me in a way that there was no going back. And that's why I just couldn't go back after that. I just want to say, it's we all have courage. We all have that courage. And it depends for everybody. How far are you pushed? How unhappy are you inside? And are you willing to do something about it? So, you never know it until you're in that situation. And then you have reserves of courage. So it's there.
So what interests did you pursue during that 1 year gap that you used to keep taking on a frequent and regular basis? What did you used to do?
Oh, many things. That's when I explored acting. I would travel and do photography, travel the world. That was a deep desire of mine. And that's probably why I had to keep going back to work, because I wanted to travel and you needed money for that. I wouldn't feel like I had to accomplish something. If I took time off and didn't do anything, that would be a big, I just couldn't handle that. I had to always do something, do. And it's interesting. Lately, I've been learning a lot about myself. I mean, you're always learning about yourself, right? But I'm not a doer. I don't have the energy to do. I study human design and Gene Keys and to it's understanding who you are. When we are born, it's expected that we're all going to be, you could be a circle, you could be a rectangle, but you're going to be put in these square boxes, everybody. It's just it's a factory, right? You're born, go to school, go to college, get a job.
Get married, have kids.
Exactly, right? We're not all the same. We are not all the same. We are very different. Our energies, the way, the skills, what we are here to accomplish, everything is so different. And we live in this homogenized society where everybody's just forced to do this. That's this enslavement process, right? So as I'm learning about myself, I'm learning that I'm not a being who's constantly filled with energy to do, but that's how I've been conditioned and brought up. And I know I went on a tangent, but it's I just couldn't be. I had to do something always. And that's eventually I realized that's not good for me. This deep awareness, this deep peace and stability comes from being, not doing. And this is the lesson I've been learning and having to decondition myself from this person who cannot sit still, has to do all the time. Or even if you're not doing it, it's in your mind. Oh my God, I have this to do. Like you're not worthy if you're not doing. So anyway, I did a lot. I just had such curiosity to learn. So these times were precious, especially when you don't have a lot of energy. Like, there's certain groups of people who don't have that kind of energy. They're just on borrowed energy. What it does is like when you can just sit and just look at yourself, like, who am I beyond this job? Who am I really? When you have a job, and I know a lot of people, and I've done this too, where I thought, okay, I could keep the job. So I have my stability and my security and my money, and I'm going to do this thing on the side. Like my real passion will be on the side. I've done that for many years. And you know what? That's tough. You have to be some extraordinary, like you have to have so much vitality and energy, and you'll be a certain type of being. And not everybody can do that because you're moving between two very different worlds. I couldn't do that. So all these passion projects, I would dabble, and then, I just couldn't do it because through my study of human design, I'm learning who I am, and it's teaching me, wow, there is actually wisdom out there that tells you by looking at how you are built, what is your blueprint? This is what you can really thrive in. This, you may not, you may struggle. Again, coming back to acceptance versus competition, comparison, that's what society's teaching. So
let's talk about, you said you dabbled in different projects and movies was one of them, wasn't it? What was the experience like in the movies?
That's again, that external validation. Eventually I realized, wow, I did all of that. And it was tough. It was tough. And I pursued, I would go sit in these acting classes and I would love watching, but it wasn't me. That's totally not my passion. But I was just my mind was like, yes, we have to do this. We have to excel at this because this wound, this childhood wound, seeking that validation. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be recognized. Because I was that little girl who was ignored because she wasn't good enough or she wasn't pretty enough when she was a child. That baggage, unaddressed, led me into this world. And, there is no failure. There is nothing that is wasted, nothing to be regretted, because even from those experiences, you learn so much. You see, you chip away these false layers of yourself and see who you are. So through that whole traumatic and beautiful experience, I learned that that's not what I wanted. It's this wounded child in me that wanted to be this actress who was recognized. And, then I could be like, look, I'm somebody because I'm in this movie. That's all. And actually the way it ended, I worked on this movie set and we were shooting this movie. And when it ended, I came back that night. It was a really late night. I came back and I used to have these roommates in Manhattan. I came back so tired. I took a shower. I went to the refrigerator to get something to eat. I literally hit my head on the door of the open refrigerator and I fell. And I fainted. I woke up from that and I said, never doing this again. Never doing this again. There's so much because it's not just you. Who are you working with in this environment? I felt very impacted by what I was seeing in front of me. It's like, not only was I running after this external validation, there were all these people that were doing the same thing. And there was where's the love? Where's the passion? So many of us are doing things to fulfill and these wounded parts of us. So the real passion, the real joy of work is lost. I guess that was my stint with acting.
So when you decided to leave it, so you finished the project, you finished the last film that you were going to do, I suppose, and you fainted in the apartment. You came to and you said, I'm never going to do this again. By which I understand you mean you're never going to put yourself in the environment again, which made you feel not great about yourself. You felt like you had to constantly prove something, and your energies were not vibing at all with the atmosphere of where you were putting yourself. What did you do afterwards then? What was your next day, the next morning like? Did you have any further clarity?
Yeah, I can't say that it was the next day. It was a journey. It was this journey of like, why am I running after things that my heart doesn't desire? It's not looking for that. And it's one thing when you really get joy out of doing it. And that's a beautiful thing to watch. Like an actor who's so like passionate about their work, it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I was like, well, I'm not that. that's not what I'm feeling, So yeah, it took years to recognize that no amount of external validation is going to fulfill me. It's like a drug, right? Oh, people are saying this about me, how great I am, or how amazing I look. It becomes an addiction. And one day you're not going to get it. And then what are you going to do, right? It's a whole journey from that moment to be like, well, how can I source it from inside me? And that's a lot of work, inner work to get to that.
Somebody who's listening to us might say, I feel quite unfulfilled. I'm missing something in my life. I can't pinpoint what it is that's making me anxious or feeling awkward. How does somebody find themselves? How can somebody find out what they are here for? What is going to give them that peace and contentment in life?
Again, that is a very layered topic. I actually worked with a lot of healing modalities in my life, working to heal and empower myself. And there is no easy, straight road. It is a commitment. It is a devotion. How much do you love yourself? That is the first thing I would ask. How committed are you to your own self? Because I put so much into myself. When I said, hey, Tisha, I'm finally at a point where I have some peace and stability and I'm happy, it came after years of devotion to myself. Because as a baseline, most of us do not love ourselves. That's a baseline for humanity. Like very rarely do you find somebody who's like, I love myself. And I don't really, like, that's not important. This is important because if this love is overflowing, I have the capacity to give love to others, to share love with others. You have to clear out a lot of this grime. So the first question is, am I important or is everybody else important? If I am important, then I'm going to go inside because this work requires so much dedication. Because as you dig inside yourself, fear is going to come up. Anger is going to come up. Rage is going to come up. Pain is going to come up. All the times you were hurt, you have to see yourself and, oh, it's brutal. It's brutal. You're going to see ugliness. You're going to see beauty. Do you have the courage to see all these facets of yourself? And, we've done things we don't like. Can you be okay with that? Looking at yourself and be like, okay, I've done that. I've done something horrible. Oh my God, it's painful to face those parts of yourself. So most of us, because it's so painful, want to just shut that door and continue this, right? So first thing I'm saying is the love and the courage. It takes a lot of courage. It's a job. It's a full-time job to do inner work. I enjoyed it because I'm like, wow, I can feel this good. And I didn't even know that was possible. There was a point in my life I didn't know it was possible to be like, wow, everything's falling apart and I can still be okay. I can laugh because you have to be able to laugh at yourself. Ultimately, you're an actor in this play of life. And you're going to get bombarded with all these experiences and your soul is here to learn. You have to be open and flexible. And, it's like as we get very rigid into these structures. So I know I'm not giving a straight answer because it's like when I look at my journey, it is so windy. You take 5 steps forward, you take 3 steps backward. It's not a linear journey. It's not clean. And I feel like we as human beings are conditioned to want it fast, easy. Just tell me what to do. Give it to me now. I want it done tomorrow. This is a culture that we have created. Oh, I can just get things on Amazon like this, like it arrives tomorrow. That's what we're living in. But guess what? Self-mastery takes time. It takes patience. Sometimes it takes years. 10 years later, you might be like, oh, I've been working on this for 10 years and now I have a breakthrough. That's what we're looking at. So that's why I don't have a straight answer. It's like, it always comes back to how much do you love yourself?
You just spoke about you need to be the center of your own universe, really, your own world, and you have to prioritize yourself. What if somebody looking in at you says, well, that's a very selfish way of thinking and living? What would you say to that?
I mean, I lived with that, right? I was probably the first one. I'd be like, oh my God, that is so selfish. So I've walked that journey. And I think because I've experienced this transformation, I can speak to that because it's like conditioning. It's like this mind control where we're taught that, oh, if you just focus on yourself, you're selfish. But actually, if you do not focus on yourself, you have nothing to offer. Because if you are so drained and so broken, like your body is just tired because you're giving without filling your cup, you have nothing to offer. And even if you do offer, the energy is not clean because it is coming from a depleted state. How is that sustainable? If we haven't done our inner work, we're offering from wounded states, like the obligation that I talked about, the guilt, the shame. So you're offering your services or whatever it is that you're offering is not clean. That's very important because eventually you're going to get to a state of bitterness and resentment. You're going to blow up and it's not going to look pretty because you are not offering it out of like, oh my God, I have so much passion to serve, to help and joy. This gives me so much joy. That's a very different state of showing up in life and supporting people and helping people than like, oh, I just have to do this. There's many bitter people, people with resentment because of the dynamics. If you strip this all down, it's all energy. We're all just energy beings. So this is why when you work at those quantum levels, when you work in the energy fields, you can have far more impact than in the physical realm, right? It may feel good in the moment, like, oh, I did something, but if it did not come from a clean place, eventually you will see the ramifications of that. Like we've all, especially as women, we want to give, we want to give so much, we overgive. Where do we end up? Like eventually you are going to look at your life and say, oh, what did I do for me?
What role have friends played in your life? So we spoke about your family. We spoke a little bit about that dynamic and how those expectations or some of the traumas that you had to face whilst you were growing up obviously impacted your life, because friends you can choose, right? Family you can't. So what impact has that had on your life?
Well, I'm going to slightly disagree on that. You don't get to choose anything. Because as I've been studying and learning more about myself, the free will that we think we have is an illusion. There's some free will, but not a lot, because your energetics attract the people that come into your life. There's a lot of karmic entanglements, right? So based on your energetic field, there's a resonance and you're attracting friends into your life. Just same for family, same for friends. It's kind of like you were meant to meet to work out certain things. So what I'm going to be really grateful for is I grew up from all my friendships. Like, as in, I learned so much because they're mirroring certain patterns to you. They're mirroring. Like, so when you get triggered in a friendship, you're learning something about yourself. So I'm very grateful for all the people who came into my life because they all showed me an aspect of myself that was either hurt or wounded, or I really needed to look at and support that aspect. I took a lot of risks and I went down this path, like the black sheep, right? Like, and I didn't say fit in necessarily. But when I was younger, I was trying to fit in because you don't want to be ostracized. You want to fit in, right? So I went through a bitterness that, oh my God, to fit in, I attracted this friend circle. And through that, I learned, oh, I don't want to fit in. Like, I want to be me. So what a beautiful journey, right? To friendships. I learned that, oh, wow, am I accepted just for who I am? And sometimes you are, sometimes you're not, right? Like if you're trying to fit in, are you being yourself? Are you being your authentic self? Probably not. So all of these dynamics played out in friendships. And I said, okay, this is what I love to talk about. I love to talk about energy and the ancestral patterns and healing. This is my passion. And that's like, this is all I talk about actually. But can you accept me? Can we have a conversation? Am I inspired by you? And are you inspired by me? So yes, we come into friendships but we are changing. We're constantly changing. A lot of times we hold on to things and then all of these other emotions start coming up because it's like you're constantly changing. You're growing. Is the other person growing with you? Sometimes they're not. And that's okay. Yeah, tremendous growth from all the friendships I've had because I got to learn about myself and what I wanted, what I didn't want. Like, is there a resonance or am I just in this relationship because, hey, we've been friends for 20 years, so let's be friends.
Do you think that your learnings so far and your experiences so far has taught you how to be almost detached? So be there, love, be part of the community and the society and the family, but not be attached. Does that make sense?
Yes. And this is the thing. When you start doing self-exploration and learning about yourself, you come across these words like detachment, and it is so layered. The spiritual path is so nuanced because it doesn't really mean what it means on the face. It's not just like this word has so much layers. Detachment, because you have to walk this journey. And because I've walked this journey, I heard detachment and I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to be detached. And still, oh, no. It's a path. It's a path because you have to, in your body, understand and appreciate what does detachment mean. It takes years to walk that path because it's like, it takes so much stability and so much core strength to just be stable in yourself and love. Because we are taught to have this guilt, shame, obligation, all of these dramatics that are going on. And then it's like, how do you be that? That takes training. That takes mastery. What can I give? What do I not want to give? And setting boundaries, and even as women, setting boundaries, that's a journey. That's a journey because we're so afraid that if I say no, they're going to walk away. I'm not going to have any friends. My partner's going to hate me if I say no. How can I say no? It's a very challenging thing to learn to say no. And I had a mentor once and she said to me, you're going to say more no's than yeses in your life. And you will have to, because that's how you maintain your integrity. So start learning to say no. And that doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means it's not good for me. I don't enjoy it. And I have to maintain my integrity. So it's a lot of relearning of what is the truth.
How do you say no in a business setting at work where you want to progress and you want to be recognized and you see yourself working up the ladder?
Well, again, it's a very complicated topic. You know how I was saying, how much do you love yourself? And when you love yourself that much, it is not an easy path to walk because you're going to say no when everybody around you and your mind is telling you, no, don't say no, don't say no. The ramifications of saying this no are disastrous. You'll lose your job. So this is why we do not follow our heart, because when your heart says, do this, it is so scary. It is so scary. It is not logical. And this is where courage and love comes in, because a lot of us just fall and say, yes, I'll say yes, because look at all the perks of saying yes when the heart is like, no. And it builds up. It builds up. How many times you do this, it becomes a habit. You don't even know that something's misaligned anymore because you're like, this is how I've lived my life. This is normal. Everybody around me is saying yes when they mean no. So it doesn't matter if it's a business setting or if it's your partner. It's like, it's a choice. You're making a choice every moment of your life. You're either choosing yourself or not. And that takes courage. It doesn't happen in a day. That courage requires you to build in like day one, today. You got the courage to say a little no, a little small thing, and you said no. and you build that step by step. It's not like I woke up tomorrow and I'm like, oh my God, I'm the strong being who's going around saying, no, no, no. It's a process. This is commitment and devotion to the self.
We spoke about the word detachment and how layered that word is, and it probably doesn't, what we think the dictionary meaning of that word is not what it actually means in real life. What does detachment mean to you?
We talked about parents, the relationship with parents. And after I came back to Bali, I moved into my parents' home. So as an adult living with your parents, it's interesting to say the least. And
especially because there are all those expectations from them as well, isn't it? That you are achieving certain things in your life, you're hitting those milestones, and you probably are not doing it in their eyes.
Right. So in the traditional sense, and especially for an Indian family, I'm a huge disappointment. A huge disappointment, like a black mark. Indian parents love to talk about their kids to other parents. And it's like, I hear this all the time. They're asking us what Shanti's doing and we can't say anything. What do we say? So I live in this house of all of that being thrown at me. There's this immense disappointment and I could be drowning in guilt right now and shame. And it's been a very tough situation for me to be here. But you know what? This is the path of mastery. In the most difficult situation, I am being taught how to be a master of walking through life, because this requires detachment. Detachment doesn't mean don't feel your emotions. The guilt is going to come, the anger is going to come, the pain, the hurt, the crying, all of that is going to come. And I'm going to have to accept it. I'm going to have to alchemize it in my body. We are meant to feel all these emotions. So detachment, I would say, means feeling all your emotions, allowing them to pass through your body. And then you get to the other side of that is what they want. That is their perspective. There's nothing wrong with them because that's who they are.
That's what they know.
Nobody's to blame. It's like everybody's conditioned here. You cannot change them. So then I'm the only variable here because I'm the only one who can change. And I'm the only one who can change by doing my inner work. So these are techniques in a difficult relationship or a difficult environment. Every day I feel immense emotions. Am I going to react and throw it at them? And be like, it's your fault, you don't support me, you don't understand me. I've done that also, by the way. It doesn't go anywhere. But because reaction doesn't work, how are you going to respond to life, right? Detachment means I fully accept my emotions. I fully allow myself to cry, feel the pain, feel the hurt. The greatest teachings, your greatest friends and allies in this life are your most difficult relationships, because that's where you are going to become a master of how to walk this reality. There's so much nuance to this detachment. You still love that being, but you're not going to succumb.
What was the Bali chapter in your life?
A woman came into my life. This was my first coach, a mentor. And talking to her, I realized, wow, I'm not fine like I thought I was. Because most of us, we think everything's la-di-da, things are going, yeah, I shout, I scream, whatever, I feel bad, but life's just going on. And I was like, that's not enough. Status quo is not enough, not okay. She opened these blind spots, just I realized, wow, I have a lot of baggage. I have a lot of things that I have not looked at. I sold everything and I was like, I'm moving to Bali forever. It was a huge lesson, huge life lesson there. I've been quite impulsive and restless in my life, and I've had to learn from that, mature. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know anything about this place. So, wow, what a big, it was the amount of growing up I did in that time, in that 1 year, because it pushed me out of my comfort zone. I thought I was so strong. I've lived in Manhattan. I can do anything. I've worked in corporate, on Wall Street. I'm this person. When I moved to Bali, I realized, wow, you're actually a scared kid. You were putting up a facade, thinking I'm this whatever person, right? And then it shattered in that 1 year. I had to look at my relationship with men, the unhealthy patterns in that. I had to look at my relationship with myself and like how much unworthiness there was inside me, despite the facade. I had to face myself. Bali kind of orchestrated all these situations where I got into tricky spots, scary spots, and that brought up all this anger. Like I couldn't set boundaries. When I was in really tough spots, I couldn't say no. And now I can, because of all these interesting situations, like and walking through them, and also humility. I was so arrogant because I was like, yeah, I'm going to move to this place that I don't know anything about and live there, and then I'm so awesome. And like I had so much arrogance. And then it's like now I will tell you, Tisha, I actually don't know anything. In fact, like when you asked me to do this talk, I felt like, what am I going to say to her? Life has brought me to this point where I'm like, I actually don't know anything on the resume, if I talk about my experiences, but this absolute surrender and humility, I don't know. So yeah, it was in many ways, Bali was traumatic because of all the things that I hadn't addressed within myself. And it didn't come out in a pleasant way. And I love Bali for the gifts that she gave me. It was a rapid acceleration because I was able to release so much there. But then I was like, it's not even so much that I was being pulled back. Like I did not want to come back. I did not want to come back here because I was like, whoa, I gave up everything. What am I going to go back to? And how embarrassing. Because I said, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go move and I sell everything. And then I'm going to just come back here and say what? Like, what have I accomplished? What have I done with this year? Like, who am I now? So humiliating in some way, and all of that to learn surrender. And I feel like all of this, your soul orchestrates all these, and you just go and you learn and you change and you come back. And so I was pulled back here because what I had to learn there was like, I kind of finished that chapter. So it was almost like, okay, I didn't know this at that time, but now when I look back, I'm like, yeah, that part was done and the work was here, because whatever I learned there, now you have to apply the learning in real life. So now you come back to your relationships with your family, with the friends you had, all of this that you were like, okay, I'm done, I'm leaving. Now you come back to ground zero and say, okay, can you apply it? Or are you going to just like hide in your little cave? and because in some ways that was like an escape. Because the real work is with your parents, with your partner, with your friends. Who are the people triggering you? That's where the real work is.
So Shanti, what would you say to somebody who would say, oh, you actually come from a place of privilege to be able to do all this work on yourself and go traveling and go exploring yourself? You obviously had a great job, which allowed you to earn a lot of money, do those savings, and then explore. You were able to sell everything and go to Bali, and now that you are back, you're okay because you're with your parents. So you don't have to worry about the money. You don't have kids or anybody else to worry about. How does a normal, average person who doesn't have those resources and luxuries in life manage to do what you are doing?
Wow, that's a tough question. Again, there's no easy answer to that. Like I said, your soul has already chosen the journey you're on, and the resources that we've been provided are for that journey, to experience all that we've come here to experience. So we've lived many lives. We've done the like, oh, I don't have anything, and how do I survive that? We've done that. We've learned lessons. And in this life, this is what my soul chose. And I'm very grateful, because there's times when I hated my life. And it's not like in India, we had everything. It was like we were just middle class. And I grew up with that, like, oh, you have to make money, you have to survive. The survival thing was big. And I've been very lucky to make that money and to experience. But in my heart, I wanted that. Everything that I wanted, I did not give up on it. Like, whatever I want, like, even if I hit rock bottom, I will go do it. And I've had some very traumatic experiences last year because I wasn't working. I had savings, right? I had my 401k. I didn't think I was going to mention this, but I lost pretty much most of my savings last year. And it was in that moment, I literally called my sister and I said, I think I'm going to have, I can't live anymore. Because I can't ask my parents for money because I'm already doing something that they don't approve of this. They're trying to live their own lives, and that's, their retirement. I cannot ever ask them for money. And I've just experienced something like this where I thought I don't have to go back to corporate because I have savings that I did all these jobs I hated and I made them. And this is going to keep me until I figure out where the income's going to come from in a way that's aligned for me. And this happens last year, I think it was June, where I would say like pretty much 90%. I thought I was done. Looking back, it is also an experience that I had to experience because it's really tough to talk about this and really put this into words, but this is surrender. This is acceptance. I have this house that I can stay. I have only this little bit of money left. What are you going to do, Shanti, now? Are you going to go back to corporate? What are you going to do? And guess what? The universe has a wonderful sense of humor because after this happened, a month later, one of my ex-bosses calls me and he says, do you want to come work for us? And when something like that happens, you just know. This is a test. It's like I've lost everything. I am in such a traumatized state. I have the roof on my head, but then all the things that I dreamed of it's gone. My freedom is gone. And it's very difficult for me to live here as, like I said, we talked about that as an adult, right? So I'm kind of trapped. And then I get this call and I said no. And I said no. And this is the thing. This is like what I'm talking about, mastery. It's like you're scared. You're so scared. And it's like you feel like your freedom's being taken away. And I said no. And like those kind of events build you into this oak tree, unshakable, stable person. Because it's like the more money you have, the more fear you have. And when you have nothing, you're like, wow, what can touch me now? What can touch me now? So honestly, like in my own little life journey, I had so much fear when I had savings. I had to keep them safe because that's my lifeline. If I lose that, now that it's gone, I feel like, wow, in some ways I'm untouchable. Like nobody can control me. After I said no, it was this new kind of strength because you know what, I can't put this into words, Tisha, because it's not something easy to convey in words, but it sounds like, what do you mean by that, right? Follow your heart, not your mind. My mind is like, take that job. Are you out? Are you crazy? You're doing nothing. Like, what are you doing with your life? You're not going to make money. How are you going to survive? How are you going to do the things you want to do? Take that job. That's your mind. That's your ego driver. Your heart's like, that is not aligned with you. Even though it makes no sense, that's not for you. There's a lot of pressure in that situation. And there was so much guilt and shame and because the way this event happened, all of that, it was so, it took me a while to work through that. I have this house, kind of like I'm in a prison, in this house with nowhere to go, nothing to do. And I don't want to be here. So it's interestingly, yes, very grateful that I have food and a roof and I have nothing else to show. Is this the successful life that I was aiming for as a child? No, but this is exactly the life that is the most amazing, amazing adventure because being stripped down of everything is horrific and incredible because then you know who you are. Then you know what you're capable of. And I know that looking back, why everything happened the way it happened. Because if I had that cushion of that money, there are things I would not have done. Because honestly, money is not the source of your safety. Money, that job, all of these things that we think that's going to keep me safe. No. There is no safety. There is no guarantee that something's going to keep you safe. You just have to live life and live it. Actually, if you live it through your mind, you are not safe at all. This is an illusion. Like it's taking you on this path that's going to kill you from stress or whatever it is. When you follow your heart, you're coming closer to like, oh, wow, I'm safe within my body, within myself. Like my heart is going to show me a path that's actually healthy for me. And I don't mean that, oh, if I follow my heart, everything's going to be easy and fun. And like, it is challenging because you have blocks within you that need to be cleared. That is why the journey of the heart is challenging. But true health and well-being and safety will come when you're in your heart and you follow that path. This and a million other experiences are teaching me to surrender to that wisdom, the wisdom of nature, the wisdom of the earth. There's so much you can get from the simple things. And we've gone so far away from the truth of who we are and from nature. And I feel like the time has come where we're all being, we're being asked to go back, because I don't think we can continue as humanity much longer at the way we've been going.
Can I ask you a difficult question?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't think you want to answer that, then that's fine as well. What would you say to somebody who says, wow, you are completely deluded. You have spent such a long time trying to figure yourself out. You have spent so much of your time, resource, energy in learning about yourself. You say today you are truly in a happy, peaceful, content space. Not saying that you don't feel the emotions, but you handle them much better. You know how to navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it still taking you time to find a job that is aligned with you and get on with it? Like, why do you still have to be in somebody else's house? Why can't you still be self-sufficient? Having now spent that time knowing yourself, why are you still here in this position?
That is a very interesting question. There's a lot to be said here, because it's really, again, it's not a simple answer, just like it's not a simple question. It's like I said, in many ways, you don't have free will. If your soul has decided that in this house is where you're going to grow, accelerated growth, humility, and really learning what life's about and coming into surrender, this is where you're going to find yourself. Because it's not your mind. Your mind's like, get out of here, go get a job, like work for 2 years. Like there's like mind strategizes, analyzes, it's logic, it'll have plans. If your mind runs the show, you end up in a different place in life, you end up like, well, we talked about all that. But so I can't succumb to my mind. I could have said yes to that job. I know where it's going to head. I've lived that life already. Do I want to repeat that again? Not me. I don't want to repeat that again. So it's like I've had to accept and surrender to this knowing that if I don't heal my relationship with my parents in this house, however challenging that may be, I will just repeat these patterns. There is no freedom from this aspect for me if I do not work through this, because your relationship with your parents is kind of like that gauge. You will repeat those patterns with your partner, with your friends. It's incredible to heal and forgive, come to forgiveness, your family. So I find myself here because this is where my work is. And when the time is right, when I'm finished, I will be. See, the thing is, when you are in surrender to your heart, there is no plan that you know of. I do not know what tomorrow is going to bring. I don't know why I'm talking to you right now. I don't know. But the guidance was talk to her, like, do this. Like, even though I was like, what am I going to say? This is the kind of question I'll be faced with. And then what am I going to say? I'll look like a fool. But the guidance is go do this, because there's growth and learning here. It's like facing your fears. Like that question can be like a scary thing to say. Yeah, you're right. Externally, I have nothing to show. I look from a pure third dimensional, like human society perspective. I am the biggest failure you will find after the journey I've been on. Wow, she did all of that to come to this point and she's a loser. That's the external. There is no explanation I can give you to either justify who I've become or say, this means that. There's nothing I can give you on the external. This is it. You can see it. The thing that really counts is the internal. Yeah, you did all that. Are you the same person who you were like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 days ago? It's growth or stagnancy. And there's so much joy in that growth, like knowing that I walked through all these challenges. And now when I'm faced with it, that same thing, I can say no. there is a celebration in that. I don't even know if I answered the question, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm taking action. I'm facing my fear. This is something I may not have been able to do 5 years ago. There's a celebration in this moment that I can speak. So like sometimes, these questions are tough because there's no proof that I can give you on the outside. There's no visual like, oh, wow, she's really successful or she's not. The true success is inner success. It's like, it doesn't matter what that person thinks about me when they look at me. What do I think about myself in this moment? Like, do I feel like a failure? Or do I feel like, oh my God, thank you, Shanti, for your courage. Thank you for loving yourself so much. Thank you for going against society, going against the grain and doing the thing that most people will not do. Thank you, because that's love. I love myself enough to not have to,
That was a very difficult question, and it really questioned everything about you and your journey. So I appreciate that you've answered it very honestly, and I understand exactly what you're trying to say. So you are in the situation right now, whatever the situation is that you find yourself in, because that is contributing to your growth in some way, which or form. So I understand that. I do understand your response. Where do you see yourself in the next 2-3 years? What does tomorrow look like to you?
So the big lesson in the last 3-4 years, a big lesson that I've had to learn is, I'm going to call it the magic of the unknown. And it's a very challenging thing because we're conditioned to want certainty. Everybody wants certainty. You want to know what's the plan. And I face that every week. My parents are like, every time they're like, okay, what is she doing? Do you have a plan? What's your plan? Like, you're just sitting around, doing this healing work. What's your plan? Like, where are you going to go be?
I think as humans, we have plan A, B, and C, don't we?
Yes, yeah. So that's a big conditioning to break through and be like, you know what? The plan is just an illusion. It's like, it gives you this false sense of safety, but there is no plan. The most amazing thing you can do is surrender to life, because then you're not going to have these when you have a plan, and a lot of times things don't happen that way because life has a different plan for you. Then you have all these reactions. Nothing I do works out. I'm a failure because I had this plan and it didn't come through. But now, if I can truly embrace the unknown and the magic of the unknown, what the universe has planned for me is far better, far more rich and vibrant than I could ever have planned for myself. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's like loving the unknown. It's like the plan just narrows it down to this one option. This is the only limited option I have. And it may seem grand, like I have this plan, but that can work out in a million ways that can be far more powerful and beautiful and stunning and amazing than you could ever have imagined. Like, there's potentials, there's timelines, there's potentials available to us. Why limit yourself? Be open, I'm not saying just don't have anything. Of course I have a dream. I have a dream that's been in my heart for so long. I want to be being a steward or being a custodian of land. And I want to build something on land and grow things. My dream is to go back to the roots, to what the ancients knew. Minimize all of these trappings and just go be with the earth, grow this plant, eat it, build a community that this like heart energy, So I have grand plans. And you know what? In Bali, I wanted to do that. I moved to Virginia to do that. Nothing ever worked out because what was the universe teaching me? Surrender and acceptance and divine timing. If you're carrying baggage and trauma, it impacts your dream. It impacts what you're going to manifest. If you're going to start creating from fear, 100% the project you're working on is going to get impacted. So facing that fear work. So basically the universe was like, yes, you have a plan, but you're not ready. You have to work through all of this, and we're making you a powerful being. so you can manifest that. And I have to surrender to that. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know where I'm going to be 5 years from now because this is not running on my plan. I am surrendering to the plan that the universe has for me. And it is going to be magical. And it is scary. You're asking these beautiful, potent questions. So much is left unsaid. And yeah, people can be like, you're delusional. But you know what? I've also had evidence to show me that I am on the right path. I am taken care of. When I surrender, the universe is nourishing me so much. I could cry from that. And then the shock of realizing, wow, I am taken care of, even though I don't know what's going on. And all I can do is wait for the guidance, listen to my heart, and take that next baby step.
Is that your biggest learning so far in life?
Acceptance. I've mentioned this before. Acceptance of everything that life brings to you because you chose it. We hold so many grudges against people, like, oh, they're bad people, they're good people. There's so much judgment inbuilt on us, and you see that manifest everywhere in society. We're going around judging, that's bad, that's good, I don't like that, I like that. And that's very challenging because it creates so much conflict inside us. And I really have to, just have to work a lot to get to acceptance. I have to accept everything the way it is. This person that I don't like, I have to accept. I have to accept them just as they are, because in my reaction to that I don't like, in my resistance, I'm harming both of us. I'm harming both of us from reaching our full potential. But the minute I accept that person, like full, I don't mean like, yeah, I accept you, whatever. Like in my heart, if I can be like, this is their conditioning, this is how they grew up. There's many levels of acceptance. The more deeply you can accept, like something tragic happens, something you didn't want happens. Something you want, you didn't get. If we can just accept it, that peace and stability that we talked about, we started our conversation with that. For me, acceptance has been a huge piece because I can very easily go into like me, the way my blueprint is when I study my own design, if I don't like it, I'm like total rejection. But when I accept and surrender, oh my gosh, how much it takes to accept and surrender to that thing that you hate, maybe with all your heart you hate it, and then you're being asked to can you forgive, can you accept, and then the treasure is revealed to you. Then everything that you asked for, the land, the connection, the resources, you want to build this, you have it because you mastered surrender and acceptance.
That's very profound what you said. And when I look at myself internally, I find I need to do so much work on the acceptance part because, I think that's something that I'm hugely lacking. But I completely resonate with what you just said. And I think that is something I'm going to have to look into further to better myself. But my biggest take that I can, I think, immediately put into place from today's conversation is to stop reacting from a place of fear. I think that's very immediate in my hands. That's something that I've connected with very quickly from this conversation, and something that I can change and make happen very, very quickly. So stop reacting from a place of fear.
It's facing the fear. The way, I'm like the emotions, right? When fear appears, it's like a being who's shown up in front of you. And there's a teaching in that fear, and it's honoring, because the emotion itself is not the bad guy. Okay, it's like, when I catch myself reacting to the fear and I pause and take a step back and I just acknowledge that, oh, you're here again. Nice to see you. What message do you have for me? What is underneath this fear? So actually, what is shocking to me when I lost my savings, I realized, and this was so shocking to me, to find out what was the fear, what was the message of that fear. Eventually, after a couple of months, I realized, oh my gosh, the fear was, what will my parents think of me, was my fear. It wasn't that, oh, I don't have a future anymore. Oh my God, I don't have money. What am I going to do? How am I going to live? How am I going to survive? The real fear was, what are my parents going to think? So how do you get to that understanding that was what, because then you find that and then you release that. So when we react, we don't even know what the message of the fear is. We don't even know what it's trying to tell us. But when you really sit and pause and what are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? When you have that dialogue, and you can, because these are all just energy. So you can actually dialogue with your emotions to be like, what is the root cause of this? What is underneath this? And it may take some time. It took me months. And the minute, and acknowledging that, okay, that's my fear. And eventually I did tell my parents what happened, and they were pretty amazing about it. Like, they were like, okay, but look at what the fear was doing for me. I was carrying so much. And so once I looked behind the fear, found the reason, once I was able to speak my truth and say, this is what happened. And that's it. It's happened. There was huge healing in that. Eventually, when we get to stand in our strength and speak our truth, that is respected.
Do you think you have been able to repair the relation between you and your parents to some extent?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting because it's not them changing. This is a reflection of how much have I changed. They can still be the same as the day I was born. It's like they're not going to change. And a part of me is always going to be like, I wish they could get me. I wish they could understand this incredible work that I'm doing that is unappreciated. But it's like coming to terms with that they have their own wounding. And forgiveness, it's like not one day of forgiveness. I can still be angry with my parents today, but I work with that now. And that's how forgiveness actually comes. It's not even like saying, I forgive you. There's so much to that process. It's acceptance is part of forgiveness, right? You have to accept that this is the being that I'm looking at, and they're going to be this way. So there's many, again, as with everything that we've talked about, there's so many layers to all of this. So I'm on my way. Let's put it, it's in process.
I've got two questions before we look to end our conversation today, and I think we can kind of carry on talking for hours and hours, and we'll still probably not be even scratching the surface. So my first question is, have you stopped looking at life as being a success or being a failure now?
In many ways, yes. And again, like, it's so funny because, like, when you're healing and doing this inner work, a lot of times you're like, you know what? I addressed that 2 years ago. I worked through this, and here it is again. So life and this process that we're doing, it's not linear. I can tell you today, yes, absolutely. I've worked through this. There's no such thing as success and failure. And I can spout all this right now. But the fact is, tomorrow morning, I can wake up and be like, damn, I feel unsuccessful. We're like these multidimensional beings. There's so many aspects to us. You heal one part, there's another part waiting. This is a never-ending journey, this process of learning who you are and working with all these parts of yourself. So yes and no, because yes, there's a wisdom that you can touch, or mentally, intellectually, you can know that, yeah, there's no such thing as failure or being a success. Life is just a journey you experience.
And my second question was about, if somebody wants to start looking into this after listening to our conversation today, what is that one resource they can immediately go to and at least kind of begin their journey in this field?
This is a tough question for me, just because, there's so much you can do. It depends. Are you an intuitive person? Like, do you want to work with energies, or are you more of an intellectual person? Because that changes what you're going to be interested in working with. Like, I've worked with mental emotional release therapy. I've worked with people who like energy healing, ancestral healing, do a past life regression. Like, there's so many ways you can go about this. And it's like, having tried so many, if you put me on the spot, it'd be like, whoa, I'm at a loss, because I feel like everything that I've touched has had an impact and has opened my eyes to something that I had no idea. I would say that building that listening to your inner guidance. Sometimes, like, you just stumble on a website or like you look at a person's face and you're like trusting that, because then your mind is going to come and be like, are you crazy? You're going to do a past life regression? What's wrong with you? Right? Like, so you like, if you have an instinctual, go with that. It's like, it comes in the first second, 2 seconds, it'll come. And then the mind will take over and be like, what? That's insane. Why would you ever think of doing that? So like the best, and part of the reason why I'm giving a vague answer is because I was a very mind person, like very driven by my mind and prescriptive, right? Like do this, do this, do this. And where I'm ending up now is I cannot tell anybody because we're, as humanity, we're past that time of like these institutions, these structures, the government, the pharmaceutical companies, the education system is going to tell you how to live your life. We're entering a time where humanity is being pushed to follow their inner guidance because what other people say may not be correct for you. They're giving their advice purely from their filters and their perspective. So it's like explore, but to keep listening to that heart, like what is the feeling of this? Build that muscle and you know what? You start that journey, things will start opening up for you because the minute your subconscious sees that, oh, she's open to it or he's open to it, they're exploring. That's when things come knocking at your door. So yeah, there's many modalities. There's many healing modalities that you can look at. And, you can start with something as simple as like tapping and, there's acupuncture. There's all of this, right? There's healing for the body. There's healing for your energetic, emotional space. So it's a gold mine. Explore, see what touches your heart, and you feel like that's the person I want to work with to learn more. So yeah, that's my non-answer, I guess.
No, it makes sense because one resource you might have quoted might not have resonated with, anybody or with many people. So you really need to just kind of explore and see what's resonated with you and then go deep into it to find your own path.
Right. Yeah. But the other thing I do want to mention is this journey is not a quick fix. Patience is so essential to cultivate.
Thank you. So the last activity of the day is that I ask all my guests to end the episode on a positive note. So any positive message you might want to throw out to the world out there, and I'll make a note of it here.
Okay, let's see. There's so many things that could be said, where I'm going to end with listen to your heart, listen to your inner guidance. That is your path to your freedom and joy, and everything that you want. That's, or everything that your soul wants for you. That's the path.
Thank you, Shanti, so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It was great to connect with you again after so many years. I have obviously taken a lot from here, and I hope our listeners as well take some aspects from this conversation that they may find useful. So thank you so very much. And I do wish you all the very best.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this. And it was a lot of fun. So thank you. Thank you for having me here.